This is Antoinette James, one voice belonging to We the People. When I first heard about the brutal Christchurch massacre, I instantly thought of the London bombings, the 7/7 London attacks of some years ago. And the reason why I thought of that was because of the red flags within a false flag. A false flag is an operation like the Christchurch Attack, where things just don't add up. This guy couldn't really have organised all that and performed as well as he did and took out the number of people that he did on his own. So when a false flag comes along, you've got to ask yourself, well, what about the red flags within it? And here are some of the reasons why I thought this was a false flag operation. The first red flag, typically a white guy. The second red flag, he was first supported by others, we were told, and so did several witnesses in the second mosque. But no, now we're told that he is alone. So the narrative changed. The third red flag is that he actually went and attacked two mosques. And there were no calls, no yelling in the street. The general public didn't hear anything. It was just quietly and smoothly carried out. The fourth red flag was all the graffiti on the gun, just so clearly printed out so that everyone could see and really supported that this guy was a right-wing radical. It's all just too manufactured. But for me, the real clincher that this was a false flag was the symbol that he gave with his hand that the media said, oh, that's the symbol for white supremacy. When I saw him give that signal before anyone announced that it was a white supremacist signal or sign, a shiver ran up my back because I knew that was him signaling to his handlers. The camera was perfectly positioned to capture it and to exploit it, but the reality is that is a Illuminati signal. It is a signal that the elites use. It's a signal that you see in music, in Hollywood, even on a Beatles cover. It is a Illuminati symbol for people that are controlled. And if you read my book, We Are Revolting, The Inconvenient Truth, you will realize that even Hollywood and the music industry are well-controlled industries and used as a tool to spread an ideology, spread mind control, and spread propaganda. When I was writing my book, We Are Revolting, The Inconvenient Truth, I was in Britain at the time and I was looking for, was there anyone that was awake in New Zealand? There seemed to be a lot of people that were awake in America, a lot of YouTubers that were trying to get the word out that we were being herded as cattle. And I found in the end quite a few in Britain, although that took a while, and it was really difficult for me to find anyone in New Zealand. A few days ago, I came across Vinny Eastwood. His channel is all about making people aware of what's really happening out there. Not to just sit and take the status quo, but really start to think about what is actually happening. On his website, I came across 41 signs of a false flag event. And it was, I believe it was written by Kurt Richard Haskell. And Vinny says on one of his YouTubes that they were able to identify something like 17 red flags, I guess, that made them realize that this was indeed a false flag. I too noticed some of these red flags. I don't want to repeat what Vinny Eastwood has. You can check out his YouTube link below. One of the first things that happened very quickly is the video was taken off air. It was important enough to censor. Another one, perpetrator is found in record time. Another one, new laws take place, and that's exactly what she did within days. She had something like a 600-page anti-gun laws to pass and to re-edit existing laws very, very fast. Another one, the event receives abnormal media coverage. This is just a mind control operation right around the globe. It was just crazy, the amount of information and media coverage that it got over that time, and as it changed, and a lot of focus on Ardern. And Ardern even had her picture put up on one of the tall buildings in Dubai. It was just a total international setup, a jack-up. and to promote her as this wonderful, wonderful leader, which of course all the Plato's cave dwellers cheered and hailed her a real hero for doing. Country has recently upset Israel. Ian R. Crane mentioned this in the UK. It's a very, very complicated situation. Again, although we're talking about Israel, you have to understand that Israel too has had a bit of a coup. They're been hijacked by Zionism, by the Zionists. So you've got to sort of dissect between the two. We had John Podesta. I mentioned him and his brother in my book, We're Revolting. He was campaign manager for Hillary Clinton. He had recently been in the country just a couple of days before and had warned of a cyber attack. And there it was. Facebook also went down the day before the attack. So everyone was on Facebook trying to get their fill when it all live streamed. They can shut you down very quickly and call it a hate speech. But for some weird reason, they let that drag on for some time. The conflict's always between religious groups, racial groups. There's a bit of a mix here because Muslim is not a race, it is a religion. But again, the whole way it was controlled, particularly with the Dern taking Jesus Christ's name out of government prayers, and then having the Muslim prayer put into the parliamentary meeting and saying that there's only one God, Allah is the only God, which straight away divided and polarized the country. And so you've got to ask yourself, what are they setting New Zealand up for? Well, we just need to look at America and the UK and Europe to see the way that the elites want New Zealand to go. So wake up, people. Let's keep the unity together. Let's not start being polarized. Let's stay New Zealanders. Friends and family of the mosques were interviewed. It was sort of unbelievable. I saw some, no tears. It was very matter of fact, almost as if they had seen a movie rather than their loved ones. So that was a little unusual. There's always some bombs or guns that weren't detonated, same Christchurch. Also, the unbelievable hero stories. Manifesto was released very quickly, and although it was shorter, it was almost word for word the same as the Unibombers manifesto. Another red flag, the drill was taking place very close by. Sandy Hook was the same, 9/11 was the same, I think the London 7/7 attacks were the same. Another one is it sounds almost the same as previous false flag attacks. Most people wouldn't pick it up and they're banking on that. But once you kind of have a look around, you listen to a few documentaries. I watched the Hillsborough Ripple Effect documentary, and then I also watched the 7/7 London attack Ripple Effect documentary. And I learnt very quickly how those Muslim boys in London were set up and really, in my opinion, and in the documentary's opinion, murdered because dead men tell no tales. They were set up. These Muslim lads thought they were doing a drill as well, a CIA Tavistock drill. Even a New Zealand girl who saw quite a bit and knew too much was found dead shortly after. Again, like the Oklahoma bomber, he was caught very quickly. Boston bombing, caught very quickly, and they were killed because dead men tell no tales. All false flags. Another red flag is that the authorities find evidence that the attacker belonged to some kind of radical element or watched radical videos or listened to radical music. They always find something on him, and it's usually that he's right-wing, far-right Christian or such a type of demographic, which is completely different to what you find out when you do your own research. Another red flag, little or no cell phone footage. In today's world where everyone's got a cell phone, everyone can have some kind of footage going on, or there's CCTV footage that got all these types of amateur footage. Nothing was there. So at the JFK shooting, the footage was taken, confiscated. Same at 9/11. And another red flag is that previous footage of the perpetrator shows him rather crazed or doing bizarre things, bizarre behaviour. That's another giveaway. What the New Zealand public really got to be aware of is gaslighting. I talk about this in my book, We're Revolting, The Inconvenient Truth, but it is a technique, psychological technique to train, to control, to make people accept what is happening around them so they don't understand that their freedoms are being taken from them. Vinny talked about gaslighting on one of his YouTubes, and I'll quote him. Gaslighting, psychological warfare technique. You know something, what you know is right in front of you, it's obvious to you, but someone who you trust, might be government, some authority above you, on the other hand, is insisting that it is not what you think it is, that your eyes didn't see what you saw, that your ears didn't hear what you heard. And as a result, you start going a little bit insane because a congruent reality that's going with your senses is comforting. But when people start contradicting it, spread misinformation, disinformation, it starts to make you question your own sanity and reality. And we all want to believe our government would do us no harm, but more people are killed every year by their government than in any other form, whether it's through Rockefeller medicine or vaccines, secret experiments they're doing on their population, earthquakes that are man-made. There's a few other weird little red flags. The attacker was wearing body armor, it was police issue, serial numbers were scrubbed off the weapons. In fact, was in charge of cleanup. That's the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Trade. Officer holder is Winston Peters, who decided to go with Labour in the last election, causing a coup in the country. Basically, this one man took the country into a socialist government where most MPs in Labour belong to globalist socialist organisations. This one man negotiated behind closed doors and changed the direction of the country from what the majority of the country wanted. And oddly enough, he's the Minister of Foreign Affairs and Trade. He is the office holder. And it was the MFAT that looked after the whole cleanup operation, and they're also in charge of all the police issue. Now, this guy didn't walk into the country with all this. Where did he get it from? Of course, anyone that says false flag are attacked, like I was on my We Are Revolting Facebook page, is inappropriate, and how dare you? But the point is, if we don't stand up and say, hey, false flag, everyone's going to think that other people within our population group are doing horrible, nasty things, and that we are going to have that shame put on us that many Germans have in Germany, even to this day. I've spoken to Germans, and they, even to the second generation, there is a shame they can't shake. And that's all part of the gaslighting, psychological warfare, really, that goes on. And we need to be aware of this. When you hear a false flag, you need to listen up and do a little bit of your own research. Don't slumber and sleep. You've got to get up. Numbers of researchers do. Every time there's an incident like this, they check it out. And more often than not, yes, false flag. And they come from diverse backgrounds and, of course, are given no airtime. They come from weapons experts, FBI whistleblowers, military whistleblowers, eyewitnesses, well-respected journalists, and a growing number of just regular citizens like myself. We're more and more aware that we're being taken for a ride, and it wouldn't matter if there wasn't nefarious agendas behind it all. The controlled media give subliminal message to support the Prime Minister's fake narrative of growing numbers of white supremacists, and they've done this by no right-wing interviews, no Christian groups aired giving condolences and support and giving a balanced view. No white people really are interviewed and allowed any airtime to be part of the healing process for the country. And this leaves the country polarized. It breeds fear, it breeds hate, it breeds suspicion. Again, all part of the agenda, all part of the gaslighting, so that we cringe and cower and fear, and then we look to the government, and the government makes us feel that we can rely on them again, and then it will zap us again, and we will go back to that fearful, hateful, suspicious state. This is gaslighting. Check out the links below supporting some of the things I've said. Push the like button, share this video, subscribe. Until next time, take care.